For the dry ingredients, I'm using 1 cup of buckwheat flour. You can use light buckwheat if you want a lighter color. To that, I'm adding 1 teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of cinnamon powder, and half a teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to give this a good mix until everything is incorporated and set this aside. Now in a small bowl, I am adding 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed powder, and to that I'm adding 6 tablespoons of warm water, and I'll let this sit on the counter for about 5 minutes or so until it thickens up a bit. For the wet ingredients, I'm starting with 2 ripe bananas. The riper the bananas, the sweeter the flavor. And you want to mash this very well with a masher or a fork. Once the bananas are nice and mashed, I'm adding the flaxseed and water powder, which has become a little bit thicker, as you can see here. And this will act as our egg replacer. I'm adding half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. To that, my daughter is helping me mix here. And to that, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of honey. Next, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of olive oil to the wet ingredients. And I'm switching the bowl here because the bowl ended up being smaller. Next, we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of milk and give it a nice whisk. Once everything is well incorporated, I'm adding the dry ingredients to the wet here and mixing everything together. This is optional, but I'm also adding 1 tablespoon of sour cream. Sour cream helps the dough to be a little bit softer. I ended up adding 1/4 cup of milk more to get this kind of consistency. Depending on the buckwheat flour, you might need to do that. Now on a pan that's on low heat, I melted some butter and I'm adding my batter. So once the bubbles are forming, you want to flip this over, but unlike a regular pancake, banana buckwheat pancake tends to stick and it's very fragile, so you want to be very gentle when you're flipping the pancake over. If you're using a non-stick pan, they might not stick to the bottom so much, but I'm using a cast iron pan here and they tend to stick quite a bit actually. So just flip them over and then let it cook on the other side for a few minutes as well until the bottom is also nice and brown. And that's really it. One tip is if you're using a cast iron pan like I'm doing here, just use a damp paper cloth to clean the pan after each pancake.
The banana gives a real good taste. This is the batter. And when you cook it, you get that real good banana taste.